What's going on, guys? I'm in Advantage and welcome back to another NHL 22 HUD video. In today's video, we are making the most highly requested video thus far, which is what are my strategies for NHL 22? My goal for today's video is to not only give you the strategies that work best, but also teach you how to use them so you can be a better player in NHL 22. Let's get right into today's video. Guys, before we dive into each one of these strategies, I want to come out there and say that I play on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm about a 7.5 to an 8 on the aggressive scale. For me, playing very aggressive and forcing my opponent to make mistakes, that's what wins me games. That's how I like to play. So that is what these strategies will reflect. Depending on your play style, you have two options. Either A, copy me exactly on the strategies and copy my play style. However, if you're a very defensive player, these will not work for you. So make sure that you are using strategies that complement your play style rather than just watching this video and applying it. My goal is for this video to help you as much as possible, so I want to be sure that you guys were aware of that on the front end. Without any further ado, let's take a look at these. Let's start off on the forecheck. I use the 1-2-2 aggressive. That's gonna have one of my forwards in deep, forcing play up the boards into my teammates. What does that really mean? Well, that means one of our forwards is going to be pressing the puck for the most part, and my other teammates are gonna be hanging around the blue line. I like to pair that up with the 1-2-2 red. Why? I like to have my defensemen hold the neutral zone, and I like to have them at the red line. I've messed around with all of these guys. That's why it took me so long to make this video. But I find that the 1-2-2 red matched up with the 1-2-2 aggressive is going to be best for me. A lot of times I'm able to have my opponents make mistakes. I'm able to capitalize on those chances. Moving on to the slider, I had the trap forecheck all the way down to forecheck. The reason for that is it complements the 1-2-2 aggressive extremely nicely because my players are basically all there in the offensive zone, forechecking in deep. So typically what this will look like are at least one forward is pressing the puck and then one or the other two will be within the blue line. Moving on to offensive pressure, I keep this on aggressive. So it says defense will take some chances versus obviously on full attack. Players are only thinking about offense, and that certainly is the case. Keep in mind, you can adjust these on the fly in game. So if I go down 2 goals or something like that and I only have a little bit of time left, I may bump this up to full attack, but for the most part, I'm going to keep it on aggressive. I also get the question, do you move it back whenever you're up a couple goals? The answer is no. I actually don't, simply because I found that if I actually pull these back, like let's say for example, I put my offensive pressure on standard, conservative, or even defend lead, I found that my defense literally just basically stands there and lets my opponent just walk in the zone. So I don't like to change these any more than this. I keep this on 1-2-2 aggressive. You could technically do 1-4 in the neutral zone, but again, I found that if I adjust any of these other ones, if I make it any less than this, that my opponent just walks right in the zone. So for me, that's a big no-no. Moving on to defensive pressure, I like to put on protect net and collapsing. Now, I have seen some players use high pressure. However, I'm playing so aggressively already that one mistake with high pressure is basically going to cost you at least a breakaway. So keep that in mind whenever you're selecting these. I do not change protect net throughout the game. I'm always keeping that on, especially due to the meta goals being either opponents getting into the slot or in and around the net, and that's where collapsing comes into play. You can also change these, but guys, keep in mind, most of the goals this year are going to be scored in and around the net. It's rebounds way more than they used to be. It's cutting across or playing behind the net. Obviously, that is the meta goal this year. So you want to make sure you're protecting that as much as you possibly can. So that's why I use protect net and collapsing. And no, I do not adjust these. My opponent can take a shot from the point all day. So if you play me online, good luck. I'm just going to give you can have a bunch of shots, but they're not going to be good chances. As far as penalty kill goes, I actually do change this one up occasionally. On the penalty kill, you either have passive box, which is going to be a tighter box than defensive zone. You have large box, which basically the players are going to be less of a zone and playing the puck a little bit more. And then lastly, you have diamond. I actually like to use diamond on the 5-on-3, and I prefer passive box if I'm killing something on the 5-on-4, for example. But anytime I have 3 players, I prefer to have diamond. I just feel that they cover it a little bit better. And quite frankly, when I played hockey back in my day, I found that diamond always was best on 5-on-3. So personal opinion, but that is how I do it. On the power play, I use overload. Reason for that is I like to cycle the puck on the power play as much as possible. I do not use shooting and I do not use umbrella. I do like overload. If you're someone that just likes to rip shots at the net, you can either use umbrella or shooting. I probably wouldn't use shooting, quite frankly. I just don't think it's a good one. I'd probably still use umbrella. But if I were you, I would use overload. In my opinion, that is the best one. Moving on to the power play carry or dump slider, I like to have it all the way over to carry, simply because I like to carry it in. Obviously, the dump and chase in NHL has never been tremendously effective, at least in my opinion. It's not as realistic. So I just keep this all the way on carry. As far as controlled breakout goes, I like to have it on strong side slant. You're gonna have your defender behind the net. And again, this is essentially only coming into play for the most part if you have your defender and you bring the puck behind the net. So it's not like it's always going to be happening unless you just so happen to be back there and have a quote unquote controlled breakout. So just something to keep in mind. As far as the power play breakout goes, again, this doesn't really matter all that much. This is more or less just your personal preference. You can also do carry option if you want. I do 5 back just because I like to have all my players kind of come up together, and then that way I can decide who I want to carry the puck in depending on who's open. And then for quick breakout, I do have leave zone early on, so I can at least maybe catch my opponent if they're playing aggressively on defense, or even if they're not, I can start to move the puck up there and gain some traction offensively. As far as my 3-on-3 offense goes, I haven't set it passive, but this is one that I do tend to adjust on the fly. Obviously, the more aggressive you're going to make this, the more likelihood you have to get burned, especially in a 3-on-3 overtime. So I typically just keep this on passive, but again, that is one that you can adjust in game. Moving on to the strategies for our forwards, I do have behind the net. Now in previous NHLs, I used to rock crash the net, and before that I used to rock overload. Again, this is actually one, in my opinion, that does really vary on how the game is played, and this year behind the net just so happens to be the meta. As far as the sliders go, you have carry or dump. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, I like to carry the puck into the zone. You could bump this up a little bit if you want to, but I choose to just leave it at that. As far as cycle or shoot goes, I actually played with this fully maxed out before. However, I found that if I move it back just 2, so if you go 1, 2 on the way back, I do find that my players get open a little bit more in and around the net, and I'm able to find some better chances, so I leave it on that. As far as efficiency and energy goes, I am very diligent about keeping tabs on my lines mid-game, so I do have this fully maxed out. I find that my players are a little bit quicker if I have this all the way up as far as exerting their energy while they're out there. And then obviously for the shots, I don't really mind having this on here. I find that sometimes my players actually do just get in those lanes. Oftentimes it does not hit off me and go in, but every once in a while that may happen, but that's the risk that I am willing to take. If I block 9 out of 10 shots, then so be it. Moving on to the defensive numbers here, I have hold line all the way maxed out on the slider to 0. And then for the second slider on cycle or shoot, I have it on cycle. This is just how I have things set up currently. And again, these are the same for the defensive pairings, just like they were on the offensive pairings on every single line. That's it for me today, guys. I hope this video truly does help you. If you like the video, make sure you smash that like button. And if you love NHL 22 content, I would personally love to have you stick around here with me. Make sure you go ahead and click subscribe. Again, I'm Man Advantage, and I will see you guys next time.